Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Today, the FBI showed up at the home of Robert F. Hyde, just days after the House Intelligence Committee released text messages provided by indicted Giuliani associate Lev Parnas, in which Hyde appears to be representing himself as actively surveilling then U.S. Ambassador Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. Hyde was told NBC News he was drunk and unserious when he sent those texts. But the question you have to ask yourself is, how did someone like Robert Hyde gain access to the President of the United States? And the answer to that was laid out by Lev himself, who told Rachel Maddow how easy it is to get close to the president's inner circle. Just show up at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. That's how Parnas himself met Robert Hyde.
You met him where?
I met him at the Trump Hotel. Yes, the Trump Hotel. He was a regular at the bar. Because it was like a breeding ground at the Trump Hotel. So every event would be there, so everybody would hang out there afterwards. All the meetings would be there. So it's basically, you would see the same people every day. All the same congressmen that supported the president would be there, and nobody else. So he was a fixture on site. He was always there, but he was always drunk. What you got to understand is when we're in the Trump Hotel, it's like one big cesspool, and there's really hard to keep any secrets.
For more on that cesspool, I'm joined by independent journalist Zach Efferson, who spent the last 2 years staking out the Trump Hotel and writing up what he saw in the 1100 Pennsylvania newsletter and an article for Vanity Fair titled Power Tripping in the Swamp, How Trump's D.C. Hotel Swallowed Washington. Zach, this is your beat, probably more than it is anyone's beat, and I'm curious how Parnas' description squared with what you've been reporting over the last 2 years.
Oh, it's spot on. I mean, Robert Hyde was on my radar as early as April. You could look at his Instagram, and there were pictures of him with the president. There were pictures of him with the vice president, all sorts of important people. And for him, it actually transcended the Trump Hotel. I think he was at 6 different Trump properties. But if you want to project importance, you can just go hang out at the hotel and take some pictures. One of the things that has struck me about this, where we are right now with the impeachment, is usually it is very hard to get to the president of the United States. And that's that can be really maddening for people when you're trying to, if you're working in the staff of a White House and you want to get the president something on his agenda, it's hard to get to him. This president seems remarkably easy to get to by all kinds of people with all kinds of agendas. And it seems like his properties are the nexus of this kind of soft corruption. Oh, absolutely. I spoke to the president at the Trump Hotel. I was staying there researching one of my articles, and for the cost of a nice steak dinner, I was able to chat with the president, which, makes for a really good social media post there. So if you just, hang out there, take your pictures with your Kevin McCarthy's or Mike Pence's as they go back and forth. Now, they're usually not up front in the bar. They're usually going back and forth from the entranceway to private rooms. But you see them coming and going, you can collect enough pictures and you look like you're really important. And then what do you do with that really important, the look like you're really important? Well, I think with Robert Hyde, he was using it to run for Congress. And there are certainly some other people who are running for Congress, typically Republican challengers who seem to be collecting pictures of themselves at the Trump Hotel. But I've seen some people move kind of, from the lobby where the lesser swamp things hang out to the back rooms. And I don't know exactly what they're doing to get back there, but looking on social media, it almost looks like that they are puffing up their importance with a lot of pictures. And then all of a sudden they kind of get to be important. Huh, that's interesting. What do you mean by the back rooms? Describe that. Because at one point, Parnas was talking about a private dinner with the president, which I think happens there in the hotel, right, in like a back room. What's the sort of distinction between the lobby bar and like the back rooms where the actual important power players are? Sure. So there's really 2 tiers. If you go out in the lobby, that's where you're going to find not even Fox News hosts, but like Fox News guests are going to be hanging out there. People who really want to be seen and need to be seen to kind of project some sort of importance, but they may not actually be that important. Example, Corey Lewandowski is somebody you'll see it there. Rudy Giuliani was the exception to that. But it's the back rooms. It's the Trump townhouse, which is where Lev dined with the president. And it's the Franklin Study in the Lincoln Library where they have those private events. And that's where you'll see them mingling with special interest groups that have flown in, lobbyists. Anybody can see them coming back and forth, though, to the main entranceway, which is where some of these other interactions come from.
And is that, final question here, my understanding from the reporting we have and from the disclosures is that special interest groups, if you're trying to get a reg changed, if you're trying to get a piece of legislation, they know that's the place to go, and that's where those backroom meetings happen.
It can't hurt. There's absolutely no downside to booking the Trump Hotel. I spoke to a lobbyist really early on when it was clear that, this hotel was going to stick around. Said, they're going to go there to try to influence them. And the response was, of course they are. Why wouldn't they?
It is Friday, the 17th of January of 2020. And you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. Well, the French 77s are all poured and available for your imbibing pleasure. Do take care if it's more than just a virtual imbibing. If you're doing the analog type, do please take care. They are a very potent spirit, though a very tasty one. In fact, not just my opinion. The French 77 is the most balanced cocktail in the history of cocktailing. Indeed. Well, we have a busy weekend ahead of us. We made it to Friday. Welcome. Congratulations. Well, that just means that we had a busy week, and now we have a busy weekend. And I'm not talking just about the football championship games on Sunday. No, I'm talking about something much more serious. And yes, we are under an impeachment watch. Everybody's getting their ducks in a row for Tuesday. And House managers were sworn in. I had asked, what was the over-under on John Roberts effing up the oath? Well, he didn't. He read it this time. Because apparently there wasn't, a principal black guy involved in it. That's what I always say. But I don't know. Roberts could have just, for the first time in his life, made a mistake, and maybe he's not going to make any more. Essentially, he's a balls and strikes guy. For a balls and strikes guy, there's been a lot of right-wing BS pushed through his court in 5-4 decisions. Wow. Go to the full count, huh? On every bat? Jeez. Okay, well, for balls and strikes guy, this game's getting a little too weird. This umpire actually is, I probably have an idea when Robert said that no one comes to the baseball game to see the umpire. Well, actually, I would like to have the umpire call the game correctly. And sure, there's going to be a bit of a personal pique involved. I should divulge that I was a paid umpire for a number of years. Yeah, I did. Just for kids. Little League, Pony Colt League, Babe Ruth. So when I say kids, all the way up to high school. But, there's some human frailty involved in it. But you try to stick by the book anyway. And yeah, people don't come to see the umpire, they come to see the ball game. Roberts was actually saying, really what they do is they come to see the players. No, they come to see the ball game. And the umpires are part of the ball game. All right. So if somebody's sliding into second base with their cleats up high and they're going to spike the second baseman while rolling through the base to prevent them from making the throw to first base on a double, the umpires may look at that as being legal or illegal. Now, wouldn't they? What is the intent involved? Oh, yeah, it's in the book, too. Right down to the point numeral. So I am waiting still to see how John Roberts will fare in this affair. I hope he's enough of an institutionalist to keep the GOP Vichy party in line. But if you really want to put all your ducks in a row, maybe you might have to consider that Roberts is part of the GOP Vichy party. Maybe. Of course, Trump hated him because for some reason Trump thinks that he let the Obamacare. And this situation is not the ACA, it's Obamacare. Apparently, Roberts ruled that Obamacare was constitutional. And anything that the black guy did has to be dismantled. And even though Roberts is, presided over a court that has pushed through more right-wing BS than even Spiro Agnew foresaw. Yeah, look that one up, okay? Spiro Agnew moved so far to the right that you won't recognize this country. Yeah, that's Spiro Agnew. Even further to the right than Spiro Agnew imagined. By dint of the fact that, for now, Obamacare is constitutional because before it was Obamacare, it was Romney Care. And everybody loved it because of the individual mandate. Had to have skin in the game. We can't just give this stuff away willy-nilly. People have to have skin in the game. Jesus. And once the black guy took it over, then it became Kenyan socialism. Talk about playing the umpires. Exactly. So we'll see what kind of cover-up we get to be, that we will be subjected to starting on Tuesday. Mark Meadows was out claiming that there was no crime involved and nobody who was an actual primary fact witness testified. You don't have any of those in the articles of impeachment. That's typically rich from the Vichy GOP. Mark Meadows knows that Trump withheld every single witness, anybody who had a primary experience to whatever act occurred, has been withheld from being able to testify. Every single document. I'm not talking about, they turned over a few papers. No, we're talking about they didn't turn over anything. And now they claim, I killed my parents. Now I should be able to get a bunch of money because I'm an orphan. Apparently, enough of the American public think that that's just perfectly okay, which says a lot about, I would say, a toxic third of the American public. We need to coddle them. And what's up with the New York Times publishing white nationalist BS in their paper in the opinion section? Very fine people. Are we going to go through this again, Beckett? I know Beckett has nothing to do with the opinion section, but still. Okay, so Lev Parnas had his second part of his interview. A lot of people raked him through the coals. I will say this, though. When Sonny Bull Gravano testified, a lot of people said, hey, he's just a mobster. He's a hitman. You can't believe him. But they did enough that they finally put the Dapper Don, the Teflon Don, in jail. Who Trump, I gotta say, he's not really modeling himself over the Gambino family, but he is doing the Teflon Don guy. Kind of fits when you think about it. So people took Sonny Bull Gravano's testimony as pretty straight up shit. As they used, that's the professional term in prison nomenclature. Yeah. So I would say that Lev Parnas, we could probably take his evidence and line it up with what we already know, even in the public record. When did Devin Nunes go over to Europe to do his stuff, and it lines up with phone calls? And that's another thing. Devin Nunes. See, that's the problem when you're lying. You have to have like a really good memory to lie. Because for some reason, he said that Parnas called his cell phone. Well, why would he have your cell phone number unless you gave it to him? People don't just give out their cell phone numbers. Usually have an assistant taking that call. How did Lev Parnas call your cell phone that you admitted that he called? Oops. Yep. See, when you're lying, little is better. Once you start adding on to it, every liar wants to keep talking, wants to add a little bit, to fix the lie. I'll put in this little bit of description and detail. I just know that when you're interrogating someone, you look for that stuff and then you hone in on what they're talking too much about. So, Devin, Lev called your cell phone. and he thinks he's gonna skate. Well, that's not all. I believe Val Demings, one of our House managers, has called for Moscow Mitch to recuse himself during this impeachment. He won't, because he will not give up any bit of power, not one. So we'll see how much he's willing to compromise to keep this mobster protected. But they are all in on it, and I'll tell you why. It wasn't just the NRA handing out money to the GOP, and it wasn't just Lev Parnas handing out money to the GOP, and it wasn't just Russian oligarchs passing out money in Mitch McConnell's Kentucky. Sanctioned Russian oligarchs, by the way. And it wasn't just Firtash trying to make a deal so that his extradition can be squashed, and he paid out a lot of money too. And it didn't go to Democratic members of any chamber. Let's be clear about that. So now we have senators who have, not just probably, but have taken money from all of these bad actors. And they know it. When I say they, I know that the bad actors know it, and the senators know it. That's why you have mouthpieces of the GOP going on Fox and other, not just Fox, but CNN and others too, saying, we'll just give the so what defense. Trump killed someone on Fifth Avenue, so what? Trump was actively involved in maybe trying to assassinate a U.S. ambassador, so what? I'll tell you, so what? It's still the rule of law so far. So what? Well, what's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe, a West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. Boy, I've just been ranting, have I? I guess I apologize. It's Friday. Republican impeachment juror Richard Shelby slammed the GAO for doing its job. See, this is another example of they're all on the take. And now the bipartisan GAO is a partisan hack organization because they went against the Supreme Leader's idea of how it works. Yeah. Trump tweeted out the GAO as the GOA. And then he said the GOA has it backwards. Yeah, I'll tell you who has it backwards, Denny. The election server central to a legal battle over the integrity of Georgia elections showed signs it was hacked. Not just, a little switch here to, keep a vote from being tabulated, but actual switching of votes. Nice, huh? And Denver officials said they would not hand over information requested by Customs and Immigration Enforcement on 4 men wanted for deportation. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where Italy's constitutional court rejected the hard right League party's bid to change the nation's electoral law. And an Israeli court ordered closed-door hearings in Amnesty International's bid to stop NSO Group from exporting surveillance software used to spy on journalists and dissidents worldwide. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. The bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the rightish of the page, is our chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you will then hopefully notice the link to our Patreon page. And if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, it certainly helps us pay our bills and accumulate the funds for the needed machinery that needs to be replaced. And since they've been working as workhorses continuously for 24/7, 365 for over 4 years now, and we've been doing this for over 8 going on 9, so we had to replace some machinery about halfway through. And it's due again, unfortunately, because that's the way it is. I guess they have planned obsolescence back in play, and have since right around the time we were about ready to get rid of it. So, yes, we are in the market right now looking for some newish machinery to replace these workhorses. And we thank you for allowing us to be able to do so, because we would be unable to do it without your help. And once again, thank you. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, that is very simple. You just go to @Netroots Radio, and Tom takes care of that. Thank you, Tom. I take care of @Justice Putnam, a good spot to follow me at on Twitter, by the way. And I post the show notes and links diary about 10 minutes before showtime, and then put that out on social media, of course. And I also put it out on social media on the show's Twitter account @CookbookWest. And most importantly, why don't you pick up some podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, or really wherever you get podcasts. Find us in the W's. West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I could have made it absolutely West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and then it would have been right up there in the A's. But I'm a rebel. Why don't we get into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. Did you know that we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life? We are. Dan Desai Martin of the American Independent brings us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Republican senators criticized a report from the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, which concluded the Trump administration broke the law by withholding military aid to Ukraine. Senator Richard Shelby, a repug. We kind of give these titles their proper standing here in this salon. Yes, Shelby is a repug from Alabama. And he went so far as to attack the employees of the GAO for not doing their job, or for doing their job. I don't think they, meaning the GAO, should be deciding who broke the law. Except there's only one problem. Part of the GAO's responsibility is to determine if administration officials broke the law. According to the GAO's mission statement, the nonpartisan body, quote, exists to support the Congress in meeting its constitutional responsibilities and to help improve the performance and ensure the accountability of the federal government for the benefit of the American people. Unfortunately, the American people in this context only means what benefits Donald Trump, and that is why he is being impeached. Hey, Mark Meadows, no crime? The GAO just said his withholding that aid is a crime, but it's not, because it's a cult. It's exactly what Lev Parnas called it, except I got to tell you, it's still an organized crime family mob. It's a badly run organized crime family mob operation, but it's also a cult. Now, the responsibilities of the GAO also includes conducting financial audits and issuing, this is right out of the mission statement, legal opinions. But a repug from Alabama, Richard Shelby, who is actually a chair on one of the committees. I believe it's Intel, actually. Yes, it's Intel. He doesn't think that the GAO should be opining on legal opinions. He doesn't think that should be their job. The GAO recently investigated the Trump administration's decision last summer to withhold hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, even after defense officials had certified the country had met all the anti-corruption requirements to receive the funds. The GAO concluded that the Trump administration specifically violated the Impoundment Control Act, which requires the president to request permission from Congress in the event he or she wants to defer or cancel previously appropriated funding. Requests are limited to a narrow range of instances, including financial contingencies or the cancellation of programs, not to manufacture dirt on a political opponent that you think is leading in the polls and is going to be your strongest opponent in the election. In its report, the GAO specifically stated that the White House was barred from withholding funds for policy reasons. Donald Trump has long claimed that he withheld aid to Ukraine over corruption concerns, and his allies have defended the move by arguing that presidents are allowed to set their own foreign policy. Faithful execution of the law does not permit the president to substitute his own policy priorities for those that Congress has enacted into law, the GAO wrote. The Office of Management and Budget withheld funds for a policy reason which is not permitted. Office of Management and Budget? Oh, you mean the one that was being headed by Mick the Prick Mulvaney? You mean that Office of Management and Budget? The report added that unless Congress has enacted a law providing otherwise, the president must take care to ensure that appropriations are prudently obligated during their period of availability, noting the Constitution grants the president no unilateral authority to withhold funds from obligation. The House of Representatives voted to impeach Trump in December on 2 articles, abuse of power and obstruction of justice. Well, in this case, obstruction of Congress. The charges stemmed from Trump's effort to pressure Ukraine to investigate his political rivals and his attempts to withhold information and block witness testimony in the earlier House impeachment inquiry. Other GOP senators similarly dismissed the GAO's conclusions. I think that the president has a right to move money around, and all the presidents have worked within this realm, said Senator Rand Paul, another repug, and we know who he is. And he's from Kentucky. adding that the administration's activities did not rise to the level of an impeachable offense. Oh, you mean the so what? Another one of those so whats. Mike Braun, a repug of Indiana, dismissed the legal conclusion from the GAO as just a guideline. On the other side of Capitol Hill, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy went even further during a press conference yesterday, Thursday, describing the administration's actions as the rightful thing to do. And John Cornyn, that repug from Texas, made a more legalistic argument to dismiss the findings, noting the GAO identifies OMB, not the president, in its report. Of course, the head of the OMB, Mick the Prick Mulvaney, also serves as Trump's chief of staff and was deeply involved in the decision to withhold the Ukraine funds. In October, Mulvaney admitted publicly that the president had blocked those funds in order to secure an investigation into Trump's political rivals. Prior to the House impeachment vote, many Republicans argued that Trump could not be impeached because he had not committed a crime. The biggest difference in the Clinton impeachment and this one is that Clinton committed a crime, perjury. That was from Steve Shabbat, repug of Ohio. And he told that to the Washington Post this last September. And Sensenbrenner, repug of Wisconsin, echoed the sentiment, telling the Washington Post that the House impeached Clinton for lying to a grand jury, a crime, and something that obstructs the ability of the courts to get to the truth. That is not what's happening here. Big difference. Well, with the GAO exposing a crime, Republican senators are either dismissing the conclusion or moving the goalposts. Soon, senators will hold a trial on whether or not to remove Trump from office, with many Republicans having already indicated they will not be impartial jurors. I wanted to mention one thing before we get into this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Blue Moon Spirits Fridays is during the pomp and circumstance yesterday when the senators were being sworn in and such. When Mitch McConnell, as majority leader, made his proclamations to be put into the official record of Congress, referred to himself as the majority leader, and then referred to Schumer as the Democratic leader, not the minority leader. The use of Democratic is a sublimated way to show how partisan and one-sided the impeachment is, because it is being brought by the Democrats and not by the minority in equal footing in this instance with the majority. Mitch McConnell is a bad actor. And yes, we will need to clean house, and we need to get our minds wrapped around that, because there's a lot of criminals involved in this crime, and people that we probably know and trust to a certain degree because they seem so sensible. But all con men seem sensible until you finally realize they've been not only picking your pocket, but stabbing you in the back. Okay, enough of that. We better. I should change this to Rant Friday, but we'll just keep it at Blue Moon Spirits Friday. Frank Bajak of the Associated Press brings us this offering. A computer security expert says he found that a forensic image of the election server central to a legal battle over the integrity of Georgia elections showed signs that the original server was hacked. The server was left exposed to the open internet for at least 6 months. Not 6 hours, Not 6 minutes, not 6 days, not 6 weeks, 6 months. A problem the same expert discovered in August of 2016. Oh, what was happening in 2016? It was subsequently wiped clean in mid-2017 with no notice, just days after election integrity activists filed a lawsuit seeking an overhaul of what they call the state's unreliable and negligently run election system. Maybe I need some real French 77s this early in the morning. Maybe I don't. In late December of 2019, the plaintiffs were finally able to obtain a copy of the server's contents that the FBI made in March of 2017 and retained after the state allegedly dragged its feet in securing the image. State officials have said they've seen no evidence that any election-related data was compromised, but they also long refused to submit the server image for an independent examination. Logan Lamb, a security expert for the plaintiffs, said in an affidavit filed in Atlanta federal court that he found evidence suggesting the server was compromised in December of 2014. Lamb said the evidence suggests an attacker exploited a bug that provided full control of the server. Lamb also said he determined that computer logs, which would have been critical to understanding what might have been altered on or stolen from the server, only go back to November 10th of 2016, 2 days after Trump was elected president. 2 years later, Brian Kemp won the Georgia governor's race by a narrow margin over Democrat Stacey Abrams. Kemp oversaw Georgia's elections during both races as Secretary of State. Election administration was handled at Kennesaw State University by an outfit that Kemp's office dismantled after the server wiping incident. Additionally, Lamb found evidence that election-related files were deleted from the server on March 2nd of 2017, just after a colleague of his alerted KSU officials that the election server remained vulnerable to hackers. It was Lamb who initially alerted Merle King, director of the Election Center at Kansas State University, in August of 2016, of a gaping security hole that left the server vulnerable to tamping. The fact that the access logs were deleted suggests possible foul play, Lamb wrote. Final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is out of the Associated Press by Colleen Long. And actually, we need a little bit of good news here. Denver officials yesterday, Thursday, said they would not hand over information requested by U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement on 4 men wanted for deportation. ICE, the Homeland Security Agency tasked with arresting and deporting people in the U.S., sent 4 administrative subpoenas earlier this week to law enforcement looking for information on 3 Mexican nationals and 1 Honduran who had been in custody in Denver. It was the first time subpoenas had been sent to a law enforcement agency, an escalation of the conflict between the Trump administration and so-called sanctuary cities. Well, Henry Lucero, Deputy Executive Associate Director for ICE's Enforcement and Removal Operations, said that the agency doesn't want to get into the business of subpoenaing fellow law enforcement agencies. He called it a last resort, but because of changes in how municipalities work with ICE, it could be necessary to expand the practice in other cities in order to catch dangerous people and deport them. Dangerous people who are simply here seeking sanctuary and maybe a low-paying job. Stop demonizing immigrants, you racists. Stop it. And if you won't stop it, we will make you. And there's a couple of ways, and one of them starts on Tuesday. And then November comes around. November. There are criminals up and down and throughout this government, including the Department of Homeland Security. We need to take a deep, hard look. Oh, don't even get me started on Bill Barr. All right, we've burned up so much time, we better get to our break, and it's going to be a short one, of course. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, A Little Women for Our Times. Given the proliferation of Little Women adaptations, Greta Gerwig's is the latest of at least 10 movies, TV specials, or stage plays of the beloved Louisa May Alcott novel, one could ask, do we really need another? The short answer is yes, especially if it is one as well done as Gerwig's and portrays such a powerful message about women's independence. Starring Saoirse Ronan as the main character Jo, the film is well acted and captures the ambience of the story, even if it takes some liberties with the original source material. Where this adaptation shines, though, is the emphasis on Alcott's theme of women struggling to be independent in the society of the times, the late 19th century, that allowed few options. As Meryl Streep's exquisite crusty Aunt March tells Amy, she has to marry well if she wants to save her family. As weird as that sounds now, it was indeed true at the time. As Jo discovers, the options for a woman who wanted to pursue a career were limited. At one point, Jo realizes that she may have made a big mistake turning down a chance at potential happiness, only to realize when it is too late that the price for financial success may be ending up alone. The biggest deviation from the novel is changing Jo's fate and commingling it with the biographical data from Alcott's life. But the risk pays off and will leave most feeling satisfied, even if it's not faithful to the book. The result is that the movie feels more relevant for today's audiences. These Little Women are all about the choices that women make, and the importance of respecting those choices, even if they aren't necessarily the ones that others would make. The new Little Women is a gem with a refreshed message that's sure to endure. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
This is an important message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. When it snows this winter, make sure you clear more than your driveway. Before you hit the road and before you get in the driver's seat, check to be sure that your vehicle's tailpipe is clear of snow. If the tailpipe is blocked, carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless, and deadly gas produced by your engine can build up quickly inside your vehicle, poisoning anyone inside. To learn more, call 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's 1-800-232-4636.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm Probably okay. I opened the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
Will the right to abortion survive this term of the Supreme Court? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. At issue in the case before the court is a 2014 Louisiana law that requires a doctor who performs an abortion to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital. Exactly one doctor in all of Louisiana meets this requirement. Medically, the law is entirely unnecessary. Generally, abortion is a safe outpatient procedure. But should a woman who had an abortion ever need to be taken to a hospital, she will be admitted and treated. Whether or not the doctor who performed the procedure has admitting privileges is irrelevant. The purpose of the law has nothing to do with patient safety. Its purpose is to make abortion unavailable, to turn a woman's constitutional right to choose into a mirage. The Supreme Court, in a 1992 decision called Casey, ruled that some restrictions on abortion are permissible provided they do not impose an undue burden on the constitutional right. In the case now before the court, more than 200 members of Congress have filed a brief asking the court to consider overruling Casey and Roe. Argument on the current case will be in the spring. A decision is expected by June, and the stakes for reproductive rights couldn't be higher. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1915. It was the day that the people of Chicago stood up to demand an end to hunger and unemployment. Their stand began at a meeting at Bowen Hall, part of the Hull House complex founded by Nobel Prize winner Jane Addams. The number of unemployed had grown across the country due to an economic recession. A harsh winter had made the situation even more desperate in Chicago for thousands of out-of-work and homeless people. 900 people crowded into the hall for the meeting of the League of the Unemployed. More stood outside, straining to hear the speeches. One of the speakers was the fiery Lucy Parsons, the wife of one of the Haymarket martyrs. At the front of the hall hung a black banner emblazoned with one word in white letters: hunger. Those attending the meeting decided to march to City Hall to express their demand for work. Some in the crowd carried banners. One read, "Why starve in the midst of plenty?" Another demanded, "Give us this day our daily bread." This banner was fittingly carried by Episcopal priest John Tucker, known affectionately as Friar Tuck. 1,500 people marched that day, and with them they had a new anthem to sing as they marched. For the first time, Ralph Chaplin introduced his song, the labor anthem, Solidarity Forever. As the march made its way downtown, it was met by the Chicago police. Brandishing batons, the police dispersed the marchers. More than 20 were arrested, including Lucy Parsons and Friar Tuck. Now, more than a century later, Solidarity Forever is still sung when working people gather to stand up united.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever.
Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon along the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 30 degrees Fahrenheit, with an expected high of about 38 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. We had some snow overnight and are expecting to have a bit more here throughout the morning. And then we're going to change to mostly cloudy this afternoon. And it looks like we were supposed to have some rain, but apparently we will not be having rain after our snowstorm this morning. Cloudy skies early tonight with a low of about 30 to 33. Off and on rain showers. Well, if it's below 33, we might have some more snow. Looking to have about 1/10 of an inch. And then tomorrow looks like considerable cloudiness with occasional rain showers. Winds will be out of the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And right now they're light and variable out of the north. And we'll be shifting out of the southeast tonight at 5 to 10 miles per hour, then due east tomorrow. Looks like we have quite a bit of rain throughout the whole weekend and through next week, with not much drying out apparently. Though it doesn't look like we will be as cold as we have been to manufacture snow. But I'm pretty sure that with those overnight lows in the low 30s that we could. We don't want ice, though. None of that. Air pollen is rated at none. The air quality is in the good range at 27 parts per million. And the daytime UV index is low at 1. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.21 inches. Visibility is down to 4 miles. And relative humidity is at 96%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. London is 46 and partly cloudy. Paris is 51 and partly cloudy. Rome is 55 and sunny. Kyiv is 31 and partly cloudy. Kabul is 23 degrees and fair. Hong Kong, 60 degrees and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 45 with showers in the vicinity, and they are under a flood watch, so take care. Sydney, Australia is 72 and cloudy. San Francisco, California is 42 and partly cloudy. And New York, New York is a crisp 24 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. The ever-present anonymous worker bees at Reuters bring us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Italy's constitutional court rejected a request by the hard-right League Party to hold a referendum to introduce a first-past-the-post electoral system, triggering the ire of League chief Matteo Salvini and relief in government ranks. The opposition league is by far Italy's most popular party, polls show, and its support is heavily concentrated in northern regions. Oh my, I love Milano. That's north. A first-past-the-post system would have raised the chances of a league-led center-right bloc winning a big majority at the next election, piling pressure on the struggling government of the Five Star Movement and the Democratic Party. The referendum proposed to change the electoral law simply by abolishing the proportional representation part of the current mixed system, but the court called this an excessively manipulative attempt at introducing a new system. The coalition of the anti-establishment five-star movement and the center-left PD, the Democratic Party, is currently negotiating to introduce a purely proportional law, which would limit the right-wing's coalition chances of a clear election win. The next election is not due until 2023, but with the 4-month-old government bickering over policies from the economy to justice reform and migrant rights, there is constant speculation that the government could collapse much earlier.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Stephen Scher of Reuters brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. An Israeli court ordered closed-door hearings in Amnesty International's legal bid to stop NSO Group exporting surveillance software, which rights groups say is used to spy on journalists and dissidents worldwide. A Tel Aviv district court judge cited national security concerns when she banned the public and the media from court sessions, drawing quick condemnation from the campaign group. It is outrageous. We have to be gagged, Gil Neva, an Amnesty spokesman, told reporters. Israel's defense ministry, which asked for the court restrictions, and NSO declined to comment on Amnesty's lawsuit, which could decide whether the government needs tougher oversight on cyber exports, a sector in which Israel is the world leader. Amnesty says governments have used the Israeli company's cell phone hacking software, Pegasus, to crack down on activists around the world. NSO has said it only sells its technology to state and law enforcement agencies to help them fight terrorism and serious crime. Well, in this country, anybody who says no to Donald Trump is a terrorist and a serious criminal now, aren't they? Judge Rachel Barkay initially had said she would allow Amnesty's arguments to be heard publicly, but government lawyers argued it would then look as if the state was admitting to Amnesty's accusations, and so then the judge changed her mind. NSO came under particular scrutiny when a Saudi dissident close to murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi filed a lawsuit alleging that NSO had helped the royal court to take over his smartphone and spy on his communications with Khashoggi. NSO has denied that its technology was used in Khashoggi's murder. But that's not what other people say. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day and the week. But you do know that Netroots Radio is going to broadcast on through the whole weekend. In fact, we're going to meet up on Monday for River City Hash Mondays. Impeachment watch over the weekend. Oh, yeah. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night and all weekend for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here on Monday, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.